I am God Jr., the Gamma Indigo child. Now in today's lesson, I'm going to teach you the true meaning of what Christmas is really about. So, I'm going to give you a little, the Most High God, whatever you want to call the prime creator, or who created everything. I like to call it all that is. All that is basically created this, what we would call a simulation, because it repeats itself like every 26,000 years. If you follow me, you understand this already. So the true meaning of Christmas is, it's not a pagan thing. It's not like Jesus' birthday or whatever that they put on top of it, because the original story or the original meaning behind it has nothing to do with any person. Because like I was saying to you, everything was created before we was even created. So this was going on, what we would call Christmas, what we call December the 25th. December the 25th been happening before God even created physical humans on this planet. You follow that? So if we know anything about one of my posts, the recipes of the seasons, you'll understand what all this means. So before I get into that, I'm going to tell you, imagine if you didn't have a house, or a house that has heat. Just take yourself back into the days of the people that was writing these things. And they wrote these things with the understanding of how the macrocosm worked and how the microcosm worked. Because what's above is below. It's the same thing, just like with inside your body, there's a below and there's a above. So the star of this, what we would call Christmas, is the sun. The sun been doing the same thing, like I explained in other posts. The sun had been doing the same thing since the sun was created. And like I said, the sun was created before we were created as human on the planet. If you know anything about Bibles and all that, because a lot of people take the Bible so serious that they don't even realize that it's a manual for the body and for the planet and for the cosmos. So I'm gonna start you off with this, because you should already know a little bit, but I'm gonna give you an example of what's going on. I could use some Bible verses or anything, but I really don't need it. But if you want some, you can have some, you know. But we have the what was that? The burnt offering. The burnt offering is actually when the sun enters Aries, which is spring, and so when the burnt offering is the cardinal fire, as I explained in another thing. So if you notice, the angel came March 25th to tell Mary she was going to conceive of a son, right? A son, right? Because the sun is the true Messiah. Without it, you see what happened on the planet without the sun. Well, in the northern hemisphere, you see what happened when the sun is not present for 3 months. It's snow on the ground, and we call it winter. So here we go with the sun. March 25th was the day that she was told she would conceive. Spring is the first trimester of this birth of the sun. Summer is the second, which is about 6 months. And then after about 6 months, the baby go lower in the womb of the mom, which is basically the fall. And like how the sun go beneath the equator, and after Virgo, you know, the mother, it falls also. So if you was to count the day that the son was conceived, or how they try to portray Jesus, they put Jesus and all those other characters on top of this story. And like I was saying, the story been going on before we was even created as human. So you could put whatever story you want to put to it. It's still the story of the sun. And what happens every year, this happens every year. So on March 25th is when she's supposed to be conceived. And everybody know that a baby is born 9 months later. If you count March 25th to December the 25th, the day that Jesus is supposed to be born, or whoever you want to put on top of this day, you'll realize that that's 9 months. And like I was saying, each season is a trimester of that. Spring is the first, summer is the second one, and fall is the third, which is born after the third trimester. So let's keep it going. So now that we understand that the son was born in a manger, right, between a horse and a goat. If you be following my post, you understand that the horse and the goat is Sagittarius and Capricorn. That's why on the 25th of December is born of a goat. But the son also in the story dies on the 21st of December, which is the first day of the winter solstice, which is the longest night of the year. That's why in the Bible they were talking about it went dark all the way to the 9th hour or whatever. They're talking about that, what happened naturally in nature. Basically, it's the sun. So on the 21st, it's the cross, the crux. We call it the crux, but it's the cross because it's a little cross in the sky on December 21st. And the last time the sun is present within the elements to basically heat the northern hemisphere is December the 21st. That's Sagittarius. That's why on the last day of Sagittarius, it's the last day you see the sun present, and that's why the snow and stuff come for the next 3 months, which is the fourth quadrant of the whole planet. So now that we understand that this is actually talking about the sun, and the 25th, because on the 21st the sun is crucified. Then you got the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. Them the 3 days that the sun doesn't seem to move it from the. If you look in the sky, it just seems like the sun ain't moving at all because it's staying in the same spot for 3 days, and that's what they say that Jesus died in the tomb. Well, the sun is in the lowest part of the of our world on those 3 days. And on the 25th, what makes Christmas what Christmas really is that the sun moved 1 notch back up towards the northern hemisphere. And if you didn't have a house, or if you didn't have clothing, or if you followed the sun down south, you know this day is the day that the sun is going to start going back towards the northern hemisphere. And once they get there, if you live up in the northern hemisphere, you could go back home now because spring is coming. And that's what made it so important that they celebrated Christmas for, because that's an exciting thing to a person that's waiting on it's just like if you was waiting on a friend bring you a heater, a space heater to warm your apartment every time it come into town, and you know that on the 25th is when he is finna start coming. You will be happy that he coming to bring you a little heat. You know what I'm saying? That's why they always say the light of the world. The sun is the light of the world. Without it, look what it does to the, like I said, look what it does to the northern hemisphere. You see that? In the northern hemisphere, for 3 months when the sun is not present, it's snow here. And then it's present again in Aries, which is the burnt lamb, the burnt offering. Like I said, it's the cardinal fire. So we're gonna get back to so this Christmas story, like I was saying, it's not a pagan thing. This is just real life. Like I said, if you didn't have heat or anything, to know that the sun is on its way back up, that's an exciting thing for a person with, just like right now, people can't wait till spring happen again. Some ain't even been here. Today is the 25th, and I'm doing this, but people can't even wait till spring again. Already, the winter just started, and people already waiting for spring. But we so spoiled to, well, not we, but most people are so spoiled to the fact that they have heat in their house and that they have, you know, a place to live right now. Back in the day when they was writing this down and studying it and understanding what was happening, they really needed to know when these seasons occurred, because if they didn't, they wouldn't know when to plant food. They wouldn't know when to start getting ready for like the journey down south if they had to. They wouldn't know when the sun is going to be on its way back up to the northern hemisphere. They wouldn't know any of this. So without knowing any, if the news didn't tell you when things was going to happen, a lot of people would be dead right now. Let's just be honest, because you wouldn't know how the sun worked. That's why the sun is so important. That's why everybody using the sun and placing they heroes on the sun's travel through the cosmos, because Christmas is a cosmic thing. It has nothing to do with giving presents and all that other stuff. It's another story about Christmas that is within us, and I could talk about that too, but I'm gonna save that for another post. And that's what the Santa Claus mean. It's something inside your head that's called that. And when I get to that, I explain it. But the true meaning of Christmas is within us and without, because it's the same thing. So you got to understand, it's about those energy centers. So you got to learn how, like the sun within us is called the solar plexus, right? And that's the third energy center from, you know what I'm saying, from the bottom. And those are the three-dimensional energy centers, because they all have something to do with the five senses. And once you get past the five senses, that's where you enter the heart energy center, the chakras, or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to use chakra because people get all crazy because they get to putting it with what their ancestors or people who taught them the Bible or whatever, their negative belief on the word. And the word just means something that is really happening. It don't matter if it has a word that you don't understand or that your family against or that the church against. It still means the same thing no matter what you name it. Like I said, in Spanish, blue is called azul. And I'm not wrong if I use azul and I know English. And I'm not wrong if I use blue if I know Spanish. It's the same color, so it means the same thing. So it don't matter what I name it, as long as I understand that it means this. It's what's most important, if you understand what I'm getting at. And just like in the story of Jesus, like what he say, the 30 years later, the 30 years represent 30 days. So after the son is born on the 25th, 30 days later, it enters the water bearer, which is Aquarius, or another name that they gave him, John the Baptist. And that's why Jesus was baptized. And if you understand, I got this in one of my other posts, you will learn how Jesus' story is the story of the sun going through the zodiac. I like to use the Maseroth because that's what they was telling you about at first. But yeah, if you notice, after the 25th of December, every day start getting a little bit brighter. You know what I'm saying? Because the true Messiah is coming back. And like I said, if you know anything about the sun, you know that the sun wakes you up at 6 a.m. when it rises in your head, and it turns on and off body parts. So like after 10, that's why after 10, all your vital organs are off. So, what else can I tell you about this? That, because I'm not trying to give you too much. I just want you to understand a little bit, and then your questions will create the next lesson. I'm just delivering the message that people don't even understand, because you could tell a kid that it's a Santa Claus, and until he found out the truth, it will believe this until then. But once you understand what this all means, you start to get that God didn't create men to tell a story. In the Bible, in the Genesis, it tell you about how the stars and all that was for signs. Well, it really is for signs. And if you don't know these, like I said, if you didn't have a house to live in or didn't have heat or whatever, you might end up dead. So you got to understand, this is really important to people that need it. Just like if something happened to, let's say, a country decided to bomb us, and we all got to go back to this way of living. Would you know what you're doing? Or would you try to look for a watch? Or would you know how to tell the time? Would you know how to tell the seasons? Would you know any of that? Because that's when that would be really important to you, just like it was to the people who wrote it down. They kept up with this for a reason. And like I said, the pagans, it's not pagans. They're just people that didn't live in the kingdom, that wasn't friends with the king. They just did all the work that didn't nobody want to do. And they knew about all this because they had to keep up with the planting of crops. They had to keep up with knowing when to get furs and all that. They didn't have what the kingdom had. They didn't have that heat and all that. They had to come together and create what they needed. So just know that it's a reason for the Christmas tree, and there's a reason for all this, what we call Christmas. But just know it has nothing to do with Jesus being born. You know what I'm saying? Like I tell people, there's a realm where everything exists. But as far as this realm, it doesn't exist in that form. It exists in the form of the Son is the Messiah. And like I said, the Son was conceived March 25th. 9 months later, it was born on the 25th, which is one notch back towards the northern hemisphere. It fell in Virgo. You following that? It falls beneath the equator in Virgo. The born of a virgin type story. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And if you know anything about before all this, before they was worshiping the lamb, they was worshiping the bull. Before that, the blood of the bull was what they had before the lamb. And that was Mithra. And Mithra also was said to be born on the 25th. Was in the tomb for 3 days. You know what I'm saying? And I just want you to know that these stories change according to which sign of the Maseroth is present as far as age. Right now we're in Aquarius. They might just come up with something for Aquarius. But I just wanted y'all to know the truth. And I could use the Bible and any other religious doctrine to teach you about all this, because it's all in there. I just want you to understand that this has nothing to do with presents, and this has nothing to do with all these decorations and whatever. It just got something to do with the truth. The sun is on his way back up, and that right there is something really exciting for those who live in the northern hemisphere. So today, Merry Christmas. Love to all, and to all, spread the light.